It's Monday, February 9th. Welcome to Scouting the League, and we will get into our scouting trait series here on offensive linemen today. It was a topic of conversation that showed up repeatedly with Will Campbell last night in the Super Bowl. We'll talk about that, what showed up a little bit more tomorrow as we really clean up post Super Bowl. Talk about the Patriots, talk about the Seahawks, where each of these franchises go from here. Both have much to look forward to. If you're a fan, if you're somebody that follows these teams, certainly two that you want to keep an eye on. With that scouting trait series, we're going to focus on the O-line today. We have talked about quarterbacks, major factors. Next week, we get into wide receivers, also talked about edges in the past week. So make sure you check those out. And we get into a time here where there doesn't seem to be a lot of football. The UFL is still coming up. So if you love ball, you want to work on your evaluation, you want to work on watching, writing reports, the UFL, always a great spot to do it. The draft is valuable, but again, a lot of the draft work that happens now is just like throwing stuff at a wall. If you're not part of a team, it is always tough. It's always fun to watch how these guys do at combines. We will talk about the combine. We'll talk about all these things going forward. But today, we will really focus just on the scouting traits of the O-line. So much to look forward to, much to talk about as we get closer to the draft and all that is involved in the draft. So make sure you're tuning in. But before, make sure you like, subscribe, share this podcast wherever you're listening and watching. Make sure you give us those 5 stars, hit those buttons, share this with a friend wherever you are at. Again, our scouting trait series every Monday, conversation with guys like Ed Dodds and upcoming guests we are really excited about as we talk about Neil's Inside the League seminar and symposium. So much more insight on the scouting world you will not find anywhere else. I am Rodrik David, multiple years in the NFL as both a pro scout, college scout, scouting assistant, a couple different franchises. All my background information, everything about me and what I do over at rsafootball.com. You can find me on Twitter at RightStepADV. And if you're a scout or aspiring scout, make sure you check out thescoutingcommunity.com. Reach out for more information. Join those communities as we continue to do good work for those in the scouting world with NFL teams and those that want to be scouts. And if you haven't already, pick up those insoles from bluemaca.com. The insoles non-slip that will improve your performance as soon as you put them into your shoes. Recovery insoles, plantar fascia support, as well as that turf toe support. Again, they are just shoes until you slip that Blue Maca insole in there, and that will upgrade your performance. Use code SCOUTING20 at checkout to let them know we sent you and get a little discount on that order. And we will be talking about it as we get closer to the combine this year, the Inside the League seminar with Neil Stratton, brought to you by Inside the League. Wednesday, February 25th in Indianapolis, 5:30 p.m. Eastern. Scouting the League will be live streaming the event on Twitter and YouTube, so make sure you check it out. And if you're an agent, if you are in the NIL space, if you are a GM or in the personnel department at one of these schools across the country, make sure you get signed up for Neil's Friday Symposium. All that information can be found on Neil's Twitter page at Inside the League on Twitter. So let's get into it with offensive linemen. I'm going to talk about scouting traits. And again, of course, it got shown up last night. The Patriots offensive line struggled against a very good defensive line, but both these teams' offensive lines really allowed quarterbacks that had some questions throughout the year to run the ball. Again, we certainly saw that with Kenneth Walker last night. We saw the Patriots struggle to run the ball, which obviously didn't help Dre May. And we saw Will Campbell, yes, get exposed just a little bit. He is still a rookie. The last time a rookie has started was back in the early 2000s, part of the Patriots. Matt Light, Will Campbell, just the third. Ross Verba of Green Bay was a rookie as well, both high-round draft picks of both these teams. So again, you're talking about the third left offensive tackle starting in the Super Bowl. So exclusive company. Even if he did struggle a little bit, he was not the reason that the Patriots lost. Certainly a reason, as all the other 10 guys were. Drake May never looked comfortable. They really struggled to get the run game going, really convert some big plays, third downs, keep the ball moving. Again, that defense just really had a tough time bailing the offense out over and over, and really you kind of saw the dams break. But we'll talk all about the Super Bowl tomorrow. Today is all about scouting traits. We're going to talk offensive line, and again, you can go ahead and throw your blocking tight end, your Y tight end into this group. And again, this is going to come, these first 2 traits are going to always be important to think about scheme fit. This is really the first first position where you can have wild and varying difference on some of these, really mostly guards. If you're tackle, you got to pass protect, you got to do that kind of thing. Guards, you're going to have wildly varying grades depending on how much of an emphasis you put on outside zone blocking as opposed to gap and downhill man blocking. And that's going to be the first thing. Again, this is, one that is always important in that initial quickness. Now, you want initial quickness for both spots. You want gap defenders getting off the ball, getting downhill, winning with that momentum. When you start talking about outside zone, even inside zone as opposed to gap, you're talking about guys that the initial quickness just looks a little bit different. So again, you've got to be able to overtake maybe a gap and a half. You've got to have some foot quickness to maybe get two gaps at the second level. You've got to get your foot up and down. You've got to win off the snap. Again, that's timing mechanics, snap mechanics, good offensive rhythm, all these things. Again, there are guys where, hey, I've got to be staring at the ball if I want to get off, which means the defense can do a lot of things to play with you, change looks, change fronts. Maybe you're trying to see it out of the corner guy, but that initial quickness, regardless of scheme fit, is always going to matter. When you start talking about run blocking, and again, depending on the team, run blocking, pass blocking, you're going to prioritize these. You're going to prioritize these differently based on, I guess, the rest of the group. It was something, again, from 2016 in Atlanta to 2019 in Atlanta, a less mobile, older Matt Ryan. Hey, we sacrificed. We looked for a little more size, a little more anchor, a little more girth, especially those guard spots, to allow Matt to operate from the pocket to where the boot and zone stuff wasn't going to be quite as much on his plate. So again, the gap in zone blocking for run blocking, pass blocking, and the protection, the anchor, they're going to prioritize those differently. But we're talking about run blocking first. So again, you're talking about your initial angle. So that initial quickness and that leverage, the balance, can be able to make correct first contact. Again, get to the right via the neck, to get to an outside shoulder pad, to make that initial spot, get the initial placement, hand placement, hat and hand placement, all these things initially off the ball. When you're talking gap, hey, get some initial push, get some initial down field strength in that lower half with good pad level, create some knockback, see what kind of explosion you have. Again, you want to see a guy in the whether gap or zone, can he roll his hips? Can he work with his hands and hips together to maintain a block, to create some vertical push while you're also possibly working out laterally or to the second level? Again, all these things matter. Again, flexibility allows you to sustain those blocks. Foot quickness allows you to stay in position and stay on your feet. And then beyond that, can you adjust in space, either whether it's in the screen game, getting out in space, out on toss plays at the second level with those, tracking down those linebackers and making that backside cutoff block that's going to allow that running back to spring free. Vision on the move. Can you open those hips? Again, when it comes to run blocking, you really have to have a great feel for what we want to do in the run game. At the NFL level, again, every team is going to have gap and zone schemes within their playbook. At the college level, most teams do. You will get some really zone heavy teams that do not really ever do anything real gap focus. You're going to stay zone. You're going to stay zone. At the NFL level, you're going to have to do both. It just becomes the emphasis. Hey, we're going to live with just being a sufficient gap blocker, but we have to be able to get out and work laterally in the zone scheme. Or there's some of these teams, hey, we want big gap guys. We don't care about getting gap and a half. If we can make it one gap in the run game, hey, we're going to be happy. We've got to be able to make that block. We'd be able to cut off a backside A, not a backside B. We don't even have to think about that. We're not going to ask our guys to do that. Got to be grounded in your own run game, which is where some of these guys, again, the Penn State guard this year, going to be less attractive for some of these heavy outside zone teams, just because he is a little bit more limited there at the second level in his ability to really reach laterally. He's still a good athlete. Just has a little bit less of that than some of these other guys might. When we get down to pass blocking, again, a lot of the same stuff happens. Again, good run game, always going to help you in the pass blocking, especially if you're a zone scheme. If you have less anchor, get those guys out moving and running laterally. Now we can sit down, play boot off of that. That's always going to help you in pass pro. But again, with pass pro, you're going to talk about a lot of these same things. Again, bend, flexibility, the ability to place those hands, place those hat to sit down and play in protection. But again, you would talk about that vertical set, whether guard or tackle, left and right side. We want to get some depth, keep that gate close, keep those hips square to the line of scrimmage as we work back. That way we can work with whatever stunts, games, pass rush moves. It allows you to stay in control. As soon as those hips open, you have lost a little bit of leverage, a little bit of that angle on that player, but is staying square, keeping that gate nice and close for as long as you can. And now we can open up. Now we can play again. There's always going to be times where, hey, we know we can open up early on this look, anything like that. But again, the ability to play with those square hits for a long time. Once we get back, we have that junction point. We've set that junction point. Now I have to have a good lower half, good strength, good punch, good hand and hip timing against that speed to power, that bull rush that we see. Again, whether it's guard or tackle, got to be able to sit down. And this is where Will Campbell really struggles. Not an arm length issue, though, again, it gives you less margin for error. Again, for all the things, arm length is not going to be talked about here today other than this. Arm length is a margin for error type thing. It allows you to get away with a little bit more, just like athleticism does, just like foot quicknesses does. Again, if you have some of these lesser traits, again, you just have less margin for error. So again, if you're going to sit down, you better have good punch, good timing. You better be very technical with your hands. I look up Rashawn Slater, shorter armed guy that is very, very good, maybe excellent with his hands. That's how he wins. That's how he shuts down guys, because he changes up the hands, changes up looks. He's very strong once he locks on. He's got the ability to match vertical. He keeps those hips closed. Again, if you wanted some teach tape on pass protection, again, short arm, long arm, doesn't matter. If you want long arm, rare athlete, look at Lane Johnson. If you want left tackle, shorter armed guy, look at Rashawn Slater, both outstanding. But that pass blocking, again, finding a way to protect the pocket. So again, you have all these things you're doing initially, recovery, finding a way to come back and make a block when things get ugly, because it will at times get ugly. You will get beat. You'll be late on a stunt. Again, good pass protectors, guys that play in the NFL for a long time, find a way to get it done, protect their quarterbacks without just getting that guy's clock clean. So again, pass blocking, of course, is going to be important. It's going to be different ways to do it. The way the Rams and Sean McVay block is very different than a lot of teams across the league, which is why they're always a good example to look at as well. We talk about body position, again, always going to factor in these. Again, body position, ability to sustain, recover, flexibility, bend, pad level extension, all these things matter. Hand use, again, not arm length. Hand use, how to use those hands. It doesn't matter if you have 35 or 36-inch arms. If you don't use them properly, if you don't know where to place them, if you don't bring punch with them, it doesn't matter how long or short you are. You better be refined in your technique. You better have some savvy. You better throw some change-ups. Better do some of these things. It's about hand use, not arm length. And then, of course, the last one, footwork, again, goes with a lot of these. Are you heavy-footed? Again, more of a gap guy. Or are you light-footed? Can you be up and down? Are you staying choppy? Andy Vitri, undersized guard in the NFL for a long time. Very, very good feet. Excellent level feet. He was nimble. He could move. He was also very technical and very savvy with his hands, which allowed him to be an all-pro type player in the NFL for a long time. Tennessee, Buffalo, and Atlanta with us. So again, all these traits matter. When it comes to offensive line, again, you start throwing things like grit, toughness, resilience, nasty finish. Again, thing that has helped Quinn Miners, who I was a little bit lower on, wasn't sure if he would have the NFL traits. But again, the guy that is just nasty and gets after it. Jonah Jackson, coming out of Rutgers and Ohio State, was another, goes gritty, tough guys that just finds a way to get it done. Again, there are going to be players that, hey, their traits never quite measure up. It always looks a little bit ugly, but you look up and consistently they're protecting the quarterback, winning in the pocket, winning in the run game, winning in the pass game for some of those effort plays that they ultimately have. That is what you want to find. Guys that get it done. And when you find the right five together, when you get that right offensive lineman in the right spot with the right group, they always elevate as a group. It's always a hard part to find. You want to find that right five to get them playing together. That's going to make the offense go. So what do you think? What do you think I missed? Traits that are more important, less important? Again, there's lots of offensive line talk out there with the way Will Campbell looked in the Super Bowl. He wasn't the reason they lost. he was a reason. There were a lot of reasons. Again, couldn't run the ball. Quarterback didn't play well. Again, some missed ops here and there. Defense, some missed tackles, missed MOBPs. Again, things that ultimately didn't matter. Again, Will Campbell wasn't the reason they lost. Certainly a reason, though. So we're certainly want to see the list. Want to hear from you at RightStepADV is where you can let me know. Always a good idea to draft offensive linemen, draft guys in the trenches. That's going to be a part of the conversation. We'll talk about O-linemen as we go forward. Tomorrow, join us as we talk Super Bowl cleanup, where the Pats and Seahawks go. Wednesday, a Cavalier joins the program, so make sure you tune in. And until then, keep scouting.